We are live now. To good evening to all the viewers. And I Conversationist Talking Cures brings yet another exciting episode, another interesting episode of Breaking the Silence. Conversations beyond genders, boundaries, geographies, and at and today we have a very special guest. We have Gopi Shankar Madurai with us, Zay De, and he is an Indian dharmic indigenist, equal rights activist, author, and public speaker. Gopi is the founder of Shrishti Madurai LGBTQIA+ student volunteer movement. Zay is, how do you pronounce this?
Yeah.
Zay is the intersex representative elected and executive board member of ILGA Asia. Gopi is one of the core committee members of Intersex Asia. It is Asia's first collective forum for intersex individuals and organizations. Gopi is the first openly intersex and genderqueer person to contest Indian state legislative assembly elections from Madurai North constituency. Gopi wrote Marai Kapata Pakanal,
Yeah.
Pakanal, the first book on
Uh, but
LGBTQIA plus gender variant identities in Tamil language. Gopi's work inspired the Madras High Court, Madurai branch, to direct the government of Tamil Nadu to order a ban on sex selective surgeries on intersex children. Before I invite Gopi with the first question, Gopi, welcome to the show. But before I ask you the questions, I just want to tell everybody a little bit about Conversationist Talking Cures. It is a mental health initiative, and we are looking at the aim is to get stories out of the closet, because we at Conversationists, a group of psychologists and counselors and therapists, we believe that when you talk, when you share, the pain lessens, and that's when healing takes place. And today and this month was LGBT Pride Month, and we felt that this is one area and this is one topic that is not yet, you know, it's not inclusion hasn't yet happened the way it should have happened. So our aim is to work towards a more inclusive society, a more diverse society, because that's when the society becomes sane. And Gopi, we welcome you. Namaste. And
yeah.
I mean, we are really honored, and we are very thankful to you for taking out time, sparing time for this session. And Gopi, the first, so how should we do? We want to, the first question, can I just ask straight away? The
Yeah.
first question.
Namaste. Thanks for having me. Conversation. It's a very important initiative. So maybe followed by a few questions. Like I'll also put forth few incidents which recently took place. I mean, day before yesterday and all that, and why mental health practitioners should focus on this area. I'll just tell a few points about it later, maybe after your
Yes,
question.
we have a lot of questions for you on all those aspects. I forgot to mention, he's also a TEDx speaker. So, and I've heard many of your con- your talks, and they are very inspiring and very humane. And the first question I want to ask you is how, I mean, I have to also tell the viewers, please forgive me. I am going to be making mistakes, because it is just that I've not yet learned the exact nomenclature. And Gopi, I apologize to you also in whatever,
No.
but the intention is not malified, so please, to everybody. So how would you help us understand the Zay and Day thing? you know
Yeah.
I mean, beginning with that, and then we'll come to your story. And
Yeah. They is a gender neutral pronoun. They, of course, it's a gender neutral pronoun. It's a non-binary pronoun. To understand this, we need to understand the difference between the term sex, the term gender identity, and the term sexual orientation, and the term sex characteristics. When it comes to like when a baby is born, the baby's sex is assigned with a very kind of phenotype and genotype, as well as with the very kind of stereotypical notions of how a female reproductive system look like or a male reproductive system look like. Based on that, the doctors assign the sex of the baby as male or female. When they cannot classify the sex of the baby easily with the phenotype or genotype, then they run through some tests to understand the baby. Most of the time, such babies are assigned as, I mean, like they don't use the term intersex in the medical, field, and especially within the medical practitioners, they don't use the term. So, an intersex is a sex characteristics. An intersex person can live as a male or a female. I mean, have the both sex characteristics, but they can choose to as uh, live as in any gender identity. So, intersex infants are not transgender people. Intersex is a sex characteristics. Transgender is a gender identity. So both are different. So when a lot of intersex people grow up, a lot of people do identify themselves as non-binary too. So a lot of my intersex friends do identify themselves as non-binary. So this is the term, especially they or they. It was used to. It is used now to refer the neutral, gender neutral or like fluid or non-binary aspects of sex characteristics, as well as sex identity, as well as the gender identity. Um,
So, uh, how would you? I mean, we would like to listen to your story and how how would you introduce and how did it come to this introduction and everything and your story and how then you started working for the rights.
yeah, I mean, like, see, not all intersex conditions are visible during the birth. The first thing, less than three conditions are visible during, and I had a kind of because the present intersex human rights movements flag what we see now. It was,
Yeah.
you know, designed only in 2013 by one of my friend Morgan Carpenter from Australia. The term intersex is not even now it is that popular within the medical community in India especially, and as well as doctors don't use the terminology. So I had male pseudohermaphroditism, which is bit, whether it is a derogatory or non-derogatory. I'm not going to get into it. But the point is that, which means, you know, um, your phallic structure is like, or whatever that is not just enough. So, which means the doctor can assign mistakenly like a male, like female, like that. But then, like, I grew up in a very fluid manner, whereas like my grandmother was a big support, and then so it was a bit hard for, on not just on the day one I know the term intersex or LGBT and like the rainbow, or what is sex, what is gender, what is all this. So it is a vast lived experience. Like I'm writing about it in detail, but even before properly understanding the term intersex, what I understood is like I am a non-binary person, and so Hinduism helped me to understand myself more. I mean, like I don't see Hinduism as a religion, but the Dharma helped me to understand a lot of aspects in more what to say in a more non-materialistic aspects. So I grew up in Ramakrishna mission and Mutt. So most of some of the medical practitioners who are who were with me are from associated with the mud directly or indirectly. So I started activism, uh, I think, when I was 19, when I came out of the Ramakrishna Mutt and all that. So what I found is, a lot of us, we feel that okay, we are gay or lesbian or bisexual, or we don't have that, because we see cinemas, it doesn't talk about sexual orientation and all these things. Okay, the guy is attracted to women, and then so okay, we need to get attracted to women. But some, if that orientation is different, okay, why we are different, we but then like it was a kind of uh, because many intersex people do identify themselves as within the rainbow spectrum. um, but then later I understood that the term LGBT itself is a very homogenizing term, an American term. So that's why in the recent on paper, while we deal with certain issues, policy level, more scientific or like a more affirming or more inclusive term we use is SOGI SC,
Yeah.
which is sorry, which is sexual orientation, gender identity, expression, and sex characteristics. Which means, so we also have a UN independent SOGI SC expert, who's a UN diplomat in the Human Rights High Commissioner's office now. This position itself was created in 2017. Before that, we didn't had a separate office for that, and ILGA played a vital role in it, like many organizations. It pushed for this independent experts position. But coming back to my activism, it's like not an NGO, it's not a CBO. It's like we felt okay, we need to have our own space, and most of the LGBT organizations were based in metropolitan cities, and we were quite uncomfortable. Like we were okay with talking about gay rights and all the rights, but then like we were we want to go beyond that. So, but because there is no education on the ground, so what we did is like we created the regional materials in Tamil. So I coined the regional terms for most of the non-binary identities which we use in the Tamil language now. So I wrote a book at the time. Nobody accepted that book. I mean, later it was published by a big publisher. Now it is part of curriculum in some Tamil universities here. Yeah, but it was not a small journey, because I don't think 1 hour is enough for that because it's a huge it's a to put it short. mm, it was everything. It was bundle of everything. But I feel that my sex identity and my gender identity, my sexual orientation, and my sex characteristics is one important aspect of my life. But that is not all about my life or everything about my life. So I give importance to it. At the same time, I treat it as one entity in me, not as the whole in me, actually. It took a lot of time to, come to that point. It was not an easy journey. Trauma, struggle, abuse, all this are there as part of this journey. Um, but then I was focusing on constructive activism, creating more resources, engaging with medical practitioners, lawmakers, politicians, young children, students, because I hate school. I hate my childhood, uh, because childhood is vulnerable, and childhood is more vulnerable for every children, and childhood is more vulnerable for especially for a person like me who didn't confine to the binary notions of the society, who wanted to live like me when I was had two different names and then changing that name is something a bit problematic. So then the point is that mm, I understood, okay, because I was always an out of box child in the school, not went to attend the school in the time, or like not confined with the marks or all these things. But but then, like, it's okay, I think, because now I sit with the Directorate of Medical Education to teach the uh, the one of the chief doctors in Tamil Nadu, or some of the doctors in Delhi, or like even within the WHO. When we talk to the people, they I tell them intersex is different from trans. It's a gender identity. It's a sex characteristics. Intersex people can identify themselves as trans women or trans men, but not all. Intersex is a separate. It's a characteristics, and we need a lot of research and kind of an um, more a more non heteronormative based approach for that. Um, yeah, sorry.
No, please continue.
Yeah. Mm, yeah, this um, that is one thing. So what to go back to the explanation of sex, gender, and sexual orientation, that is going to gender, because you were assigned as female at birth, but you chose to live as women. Some people may, like, you never decided to be assigned as female at birth. So like that, none of us were chose to assigned as intersex. Of course, they don't assign us as intersex. So they need to put us in the binary box. So thank God we didn't underwent. I didn't underwent. Some of my friends and me, we didn't underwent any major surgery. But then a lot of uh, children, infants especially, go through this horrible surgery. We call this procedure as normalizing surgeries. It originated in America, um, uh, based on the very kind of heteronormative binary values in the science, which is without any human, without any medical ethics. So the main thing is that in intersex, when the baby is assigned as, um, you know, um, like when the baby's sex cannot be classified either as male or female, um, the doctors convince the parent to take up, the sex identity of male to inherit the properties in majority of the North India, in Rajasthan and UP and in different regions. The children's are operated as, you know, male. I'm so sorry. I'm getting a bit distracted because of the messages, so I had to push that aside. Like that was the thing. Um, so my first struggle was that um, especially gay men, have community for themselves. Lesbians do have community for themselves. Transgender people do have community for themselves. But I'm talking about a group of individuals who don't have community for themselves, whom we cannot bring together as community. So those who have communities, they need to talk about those people, who are trying to come together. So most invisible, section is intersex, because you can't expect a newborn infant to come with a rainbow flag to protest on the street to ask for their rights.
Right.
On one hand, human rights of these children are important. What kind of medical protocols we have for these infants, um, even for animals are not treated that great here. At the same time, we do have specific laws and protocols to administrate their surgeries, and it's an approved protocol within various ministries and policymakers and scientific community, especially within the veterinary community. But we don't even have those protocols for intersex infants in India, in many parts of the world, actually. So Malta is the first country. It is with less than 6 lakh people, 600,000 people. It is the first country to bring a legislation to affirm and to uphold the intersex human rights, to pass a legislation for intersex children. had infants and intersex people to ensure their rights. After Malta, we have many countries, discussing it. But then, like last uh, April 2002, the Madras bench of Madurai High Court said the consent of the parent cannot be considered as the consent of the child, and they directed the government of Tamil Nadu to pass a ban on blanket ban, which is like if it is not medically necessary, you're not supposed to operate the infant. You don't have enough scientific evidence, which means like you because also it deals with the consciousness of the infant. If there is a salt wasting condition, or if there is a medically necessary condition, if the baby is baby couldn't pee or loo, or if there is some medical complication, then the baby can undergo the surgery. Even in that surgery, it is not necessary to cosmetically change the sex of the baby, the appearance of the baby as a male, or as a male child, or as a female child. So we are talking about medically unnecessary surgeries on these infants. So Tamil Nadu did ban the surgery. I drafted the government order for the Tamil Nadu, and we constituted a committee. We looked into all over the world. Is there a medical protocol through which we can make it aligned to India? And Dr. Soumya Swaminathan connected us with a few diplomats who worked on genital mutilation cases in India. And when we spoke to them, they were completely they were not aware of all this. Actually, the subject is completely new to them. I had to handle a class for at least 2.5 hours to them and speak to them about larger issues. Few of our community individuals, I mean intersex individuals, met them to explain these issues. Later, they understood it, and then because one hard issue was that Malta just have a legislation, but not any policy was passed. I mean, like medical protocol is not there. In California, they were discussing about it in the Senate, but then like nothing productive came out. In the middle of Brexit, even British too, British, an MP from the British Parliament was also discussing about the human rights of intersex infants to prohibit such non-necessary surgeries on intersex infants. But then that didn't work out. Meanwhile, we successfully passed ban in Tamil Nadu, a state with more than 80 million people, which is bigger than Netherlands or Sweden. So it was not a one-day achievement. It took us more than 10 years. Many nights we suffered, struggled. We didn't have money. Nobody funded us for all this. Like we are a group of individuals. We are not any NGO or I mean, we educated a larger community for sure in a more constructive manner. And the way discourse is happening in these days, especially even before the term LGBT originated, we have gender specific sacred spaces, traditions, um, you know, um, dedicated to a larger indigenous gender variant communities.
Right.
Uh, for example, in Tamil Nadu, we have Kutandava temple, Arvan, son of Arjuna. He's a
Yeah.
patron god for indigenous gender variants. For example,
Yes.
in Gujarat, Bahuruch, we have Bahuchira Mata temple, who's the patron goddess for the diverse indigenous gender variant
Yes.
communities. I mean, even before the term LGBT or the transgender, this space has existed for at least more than 1.5 millennium. We have cultural,
Yes.
anthropological evidences to support the claims. The point is that when we homogenize all these identities under LGBT and celebrating a Pride Month which is no way connected to the roots or the Indian way, because when something is coming to India, it need to be Indianized. When I
Absolutely.
mean when I mean Indianized, not heteronormative binary Indianized, I mean, Indianized means it need to come from the roots here. I
Yes,
mean, like the cultural icons who are non-heteronormative, who are non-biased or celebrated in different parts of the world. For example, the language I'm speaking in is in English. It's a highly problematic language. Each word have more than 30 meanings, and like according to your experience and exposure towards that word, uh, you will understand that word. Uh, and it is a predominant language which the many global north communities are using these days. Even before, because America is not even 600 years old, and LGBT is an American term, and America is an occupied land. The indigenous people were destroyed so that they were occupied. When you see the indigenous community of America, for them the gender identity is more than eight. When you see the indigenous communities of Australia, for them the uh, you know gender identity is more than at least four. In different parts of India, the indigenous gender variant communities, their identities were at least more than 12 to 17. In Tamil, we have regional terms for at least 58 plus gender identities.
yes. I was just coming to that. There
Yeah,
is a temple also, I believe, dedicated. And so, I mean, I really wanted to ask you about all the indigenous variants, and because you're the only one who's really talking about indigenous, the languages, local languages. So, I mean, that was so you've touched it, and we wanted to elaborate a little more because your language defines you in a certain way. And so, for the indigenous, for many of the people who are not English speaking, I thought you would give an insight into how, and you're already talking about it.
yeah.
A more little more detail.
Yeah. So the indigenous gender variants or the people with identities even before the terminologies in English originated, these people existed for so long. And they have a community. There is a community, a social stratification, a language, a practice, faith practices originating based on their gender identity or their biological sex. Uh, for example, we call them as Arvanis in Tamil Nadu, Bhagavatis of Kerala, who are no more. Sakibekis of West Bengal, they are no more now. Very rarely we see Sakibekis now. And we have Nupi Manvis in Northeast, and some of the ancient Nupi Manvis tradition, they were not known as Nupi Manvis too. Klebinis, and we have, for example, Hijras, and Kinnas, Mangalamukis, we have Jogapas of Karnataka region, Elamas of Andhra region. When you see each of this region, they have specific deities dedicated to them, which is very beautiful. And they
Yes.
have a beautiful social stratification. For example, from Pakistan to the north of India, the language they speak is Hijra Farsi, mixture of Farsi, not of the Parsi language, but it is mixture of Urdu with Sanskrit with many Adivasi bhashas. And when you see the south, they speak Kauti bhasha. It's mixture of Tamil with many indigenous languages here with Sanskrit. Sanskrit do play a vital role in identities. In South, Tamil do play a vital role in this terminologies. And none of this language have alphabets or a written format. It's like a oral language, like more
Okay.
Shruti than Smriti. Or so, within this 800 years, they are going through a lot. Several laws and enactments were passed and in different places. But when I refer India as India, I go back to the times of Chandragupta Maurya, for which, because at least the concrete evidence we have is the tablet of Ashoka with
Yeah.
inscriptions. which is at least more than 2000 years, 2000 plus years old. So because Buddha was born before 2500 years old, and even before Buddha, at least 3000 years old tradition is Jain tradition. Both of these traditions accommodates larger gender diverse communities, not giving too much of attention to any materialistic identities like wealth, marriage, money. In that, they also include sex as an identity. But slowly, in this 500 years, we are also colonized in our mind to have a very heteronormative approach to all the subjects, because we think that okay before because we behave in a way that before 2000 years all these texts were invented with a simple Google search, with the Apple iPad in their hand, and 24 into 7 running water facilities in their room with a very good marble floor and electricity around them. So I mean, we need to just feel it in our heart to live it, than kind of think it in the contemporary times and terminologies, because these days we have a lot of camp followers than analyzers within the community. I mean, we just simply follow it just for the sake of following it. And the government is doing the same mistake because they want to give the rights to us, but they don't know who we are. And one such is the Supreme Court judgment. It's a very stupid judgment, which is third gender judgment. If we are third gender, who's the first and second gender? Definitely male is not the first gender. When the court is sitting for these issues, they need to uphold the integrity of the constitution. At the same time, their judgment should be based on scientific evidence than certain, kind of belief or faith they uphold. Do we have enough scientific evidence to approach the very kind of judgment pronounced by the Supreme Court at the time? In the sense, no, because the judgment itself is not clear about what is sex identity, what is gender identity, because judges don't know the difference between sex, gender, and sexual orientation and sex characteristics, because doctors themselves don't know that, and the journalists who are reporting them don't know that. So that's why we started educating the journalists, medical practitioners, and even before that, the children. Like, because to go back, I said my childhood was very vulnerable, and I went through a lot of horrible things because people around me didn't understood it. So I made sure that I will approach these children. We started approaching the schools in 2011, way back before some Delhi international schools, talking about all this. We started talking about this in the government schools. Oh my God, teachers were not okay with that.
Yeah, I
They
think
stopped us. But then, like, later we had to gain some, because when I contested an election and then like gained few contacts, and then like I used it for a very positive change, because I had to, because initially in 2012 for name change, even before this Nalsa judgment, me and Swapna protested. Swapna was born as a Muslim. She's a trans woman from Tamil Nadu. One of the first trans women to talk about educational rights of transgender people. She was not allowed to appear in UPSC. UPSC even now will only allow male and female to write examination. So the even the Supreme Court has sought clarification from the UPSC. Even the central government has sought clarification from the UPSC that what is their thought on allowing transgender people or other, especially transgender people in UPSC. They didn't give any. There is no response from them yet. But we successfully challenged it in the court. Swapna uh, took part in TNPSC, the state civil service examination, as women candidate. Um, Today, she is the first trans woman gazetted officer in India. She sits as the um, assistant commissioner of commercial income tax department. With she lacked 15 marks, just 15 marks. So she lost collector position, sub collector posting, and she is just working to become a state secretary soon, probably. I don't know, but it was not an easy struggle at the time. No people supported us. We were protesting in front of the collectorate. The same cops who arrested us, who were yelling at us, just because of their ignorance. Now they are saluting us. It is good, I believe. We don't need their salute. We don't want anyone to salute us. But the point is that the dignity, we were not treated in a very dignified manner. And to gain the dignity, I thought I don't need to tell any sympathetic stories about myself. Let me just do some positive activism in a very silent manner. I never called myself as an activist before, but then like a lot of people started calling because I'm always active. Why I should be called as an activist? In the sense like I'm actively living, breathing. So because my way of approach of life is different than many people around. Mm. So coming back to the issue of Swapna, that is one of the very important issue in 2013. The judgment is something important, and a lot of people we work with, especially Santi Soundararajan, to go back to the case of intersex human rights.
Yeah.
This we worked with a lot of women with intersex traits. To talk about Shanti, before we discuss about Shanti, can I share you some information about day before yesterday? I think
Yeah.
this week in Netaji Subhash Chandra Bose Cancer Hospital, you know, in Kolkata, they found this 30 years old, old woman suddenly discovered she is not woman. The way the journalist reported it is but super insensitive. I mean, what is women? Who is women? Who gave the right to whom to decide who is women? Who are that group of people who decides it? What authority they possess? What is the science behind it? And how a group of medical practitioners can kind of declare a person as male or these are the ethical questions our medical practitioners never answer. Actually. So to go back to this issue of this particular woman, they found she is with androgen insensitivity syndrome. Her sister is with androgen insensitivity syndrome, and she is with a particular medical condition, which is an intersex condition. Just because she is with that particular medical condition, it doesn't mean that she is not women enough. But the doctors handed the way broken her heart is that, oh, you're not women enough. But she is living with her husband for a good number of years now. What her husband will do, she's like she was crying and she felt in depression. She was left in depression. She is going through some counseling, but how much the counselors will know about intersex issues to counsel this particular person? That's why in Tamil Nadu we introduced the concept called genetic counseling, which means even a common medical, I mean, in general, psychiatrists and psychologists need to be trained in genetic counseling, I believe, because it's an evolving subject here. It need to be, in lines with the human rights standards, I believe, more affirming than, kind of, because it need to listen to them, right? Because the one reason I agreed to this conversation is that we started 24 into 7 helpline in 2012 for the LGBTI community. We believe having a person to talk can save someone's life.
Yes, absolutely.
And the 24 into 7 helpline got a lot of students, youngsters. Even I didn't believe some school students called us, but now they're studying in college in IIT Bombay or in different parts of India. Oh my God, you were a junior when you called me. I mean, like, you were not even a major. You were super. I mean, like, I don't know how they, because it is nice actually, but the point is that we changed them as the counselors. They came to us depressed, and they counsel the community members.
Okay.
Uh, so, and coming back to this Kolkata story, this women, I mean, this is one of the most insensitive witty. It is inhuman way the doctors handled it, because doctors are not sensitive enough, because we are okay to be ignorant, we are comfortable to be ignorant, because we don't want to go beyond the borders, especially uh, when it comes to this women's case. I worry about this. We are trying to understand the case of this women, and we also want to collaborate with you if possible to kind of to design few curriculums to accommodate intersex infants and their parents, because more than the infants, how much a parent is willing to bear for the child matters a lot in a country where female infanticide is still continuing. In this lockdown throughout India, in this past 90 days, at least 25 female infanticide took place. These are reported. Many goes underreported too. In a country where female infanticide is happening, we cannot say intersex infanticide is not taking place. And the funny thing is, the central adopting agencies are mentioning such intersex infants as transgender or hijra children. How insane it is! How come a child can be born as a hijra child or a transgender child? Nothing. We are not averse or against transgender people or hijra community. Even within the hijra community, they have a separate term to refer this intersex people called Antarlingvashis or Mabedi Husalis in South, or Klebinis or Napunsaks. Um, so, because what was the term earlier medical community was using as hermaphrodite? Few
Yeah.
people believe it is a derogatory term, but then like it was interchangeably used for trans identities. It was interchangeably used with ignorance, super ignorance, to refer a gender identity and sex identity, because intersex is neither a sex identity or a gender identity, it's a sex characteristics.
Yeah.
So coming back to the issue of this particular woman in Kolkata, I mean, all these years she was raised as a, she went to girls' school. She was raised as a female. She don't have much education and all that to understand all this. Suddenly knowing that she's less than other women. They are saying, "Oh, you're not a female, you're a man." The article explicitly mentioned she's a man. I mean, how painful it will be for her. So we need to have a very affirming medical practitioners, mental health practitioners with medical ethics. Uh, because what if a person is coming from a rural Faridabad to you, a parent with an intersex infant? We don't know. I mean, like Amitabh Bachchan is appearing for polio or different advertisements to say, you know, polio drops, put polio drops and all. Do we have any such campaign by the government to make awareness to the parents? Your child is normal. It is not a deficiency or disorder or a disease. It is not a curable thing. Like a healthy male child and a healthy female child, your child is also a healthy child. And you don't need to worry. Doctors need to, along with the child, up to 18 years or up to 19 years, or till the child or the child grew up as an adult, till they need the counseling process. We want the Tamil Nadu government to provide the counsel. I mean, it was just passed in the paper. At least it is in paper, you know. We are working to implement it at least, you know. So the point I'm saying is that we have formed a team with pediatric surgeon who is touching the child, pediatrician and the surgeon, because doctors are the first people to touch the child before the parents, right? Which means they need to know more about, they need to be more sensitive, and they are the first parent of the child than the parents, biological parents, I believe, because they need to have that non-heteronormative science and compassion based approach. What we lack is compassion and sensitivity.
Yes. Absolutely.
And so coming back to the issue is that um, issue of Shanti Soundarraj. In sports, it's only necessary for female athletes to undergo sex verification. So it's not necessary for male athletes. In International Association for Athletic Federation, IAAF, and IAF, Indian Athletic Federation, they organize this, they conduct these tests. We do have wonderful doctors who don't know what it is, but they simply conduct these tests. There are a lot of female living with XY chromosome. There are a lot of men living with XX chromosome. And there are few women I know also with XY chromosome become mother of at least 3, 4 children. For some, it is twins, triplets, or like that. Anyway, coming back to the issue, then sex based on chromosome is flawed, right? So coming back to the issue here is of Shanti Soundararajan. She was an athlete even before Tudi Chand or even before Caster Samania, a black Tamil Hindu Adi Dravida, it means Dalit athlete, who won 11 international medals. With one pair of borrowed shoes, she won 11 international medals. The parents didn't have TV to see her winning a medal. In such circumstance, in 2006, she won a medal in Doha. 11 male doctors did the sex verification test. What happened to the doctor went from the Indian contingent, the sports doctor? He was not even present there. She was not explained what is happening to her. She didn't know what is happening. She thought this is a procedure she need to undergo. Not every year she is going to the Asian Games, right? So the point is that they videotaped how she is urinating. It was gross. It was literal rape for more than
Oh,
7 hours. They asked questions like whom she is having sexual relationship with, what is her sexual orientation, and all these questions. This is insane. This is completely, unnecessary. Just to run in a ground and to win a medal to prove an athletic talent for a country, do we need to strip off and then like 11 male doctors were inside their fingers in her vagina, and then like this is like so gross to talk, even to talk about. It is gross, right?
yeah.
And this practice existed for years and years. She came back to India. She worked in a Brooklyn as a daily wage. We belittled her. In 2013, I took up her case. We petitioned her case in multiple and statutory bodies. None of these organizations which is proclaiming, oh, we are working for Dalits or we are working for, women rights. None of them stood by Shanti. Not even a single person from India. We, without single penny, we stood for Shanti. I mean, more than a person, we treated her as like our sister, our own person. Like we are her first fans. We told her. When I mean we, my fellow volunteers who are invisible, in Srishti for various reasons. The most important thing, what happened for Shanti is after that, now she have a job. In between this, the same thing happened to Caster Samania. Shanti stood by Caster Samania. In 2012, she was allowed again because the government stood by her. And she won a silver medal in London Olympics. In 2006, 2016, in 2000, in Rio Olympics, she won gold medal. Again, she set it up a world record. In between that, she got married to her girlfriend. In between this, in 2014, Tudi Chand was removed from the Commonwealth contingent, citing the same reason. A different condition than Shanti's, a different testing methodology than Shanti's. When she was removed from the Commonwealth contingent, the Athletic Federation of India's secretary C.K. Valsara, other people, especially the spokesperson, came out and like, oh, this girl is not a woman. What sort of nonsense is that? Who gave the right to them? How ethical is this? So, Sarbananda Sonowal, then BJP's sports minister, sponsored study case to be appeared in court of arbitration for sports in Lausanne. One of my friend Payoshini Mitra helped her, um, and then because of India raised this issue in court of arbitration for sports, which is like a international court or supreme court for sports. So in Lausanne, because of our India's efforts, Rio Olympic became the first Olympics which took place without gender sex verification test. Not many people know this.
Yeah, not many.
Um, and in 2016, Shanti got her job. Shanti became the athletic coach in Tamil Nadu Sports Development Authority. To get that, oh my God, I petitioned National Commission for Scheduled Caste like around 7 to 8 times. Mr. Punia was not taking up the case because it may affect Kalmadi and Lalit Banot who were involved in that at the early time. But anyway, coming back to the issue, to focus on the issue is that Shanti, Tudy, we know them by name because they are popular in media now. We took up the case of at least 8 athletes. Most of them, their names were not, some of them in the national level games itself, they were, they came to know this women athlete produce excessive testosterone or they have intersex traits. One such earlier case which went to the Court of Justice, is Advocate Geeta Luthra's case in 2008, Faizan Siddique's case, through which Indian paramilitary force, the military became the first military to allow intersex people to serve in the army in Sastra Seema Bal. Mm,
Okay.
yeah, so she appeared into, and 2011 the verdict came, and more than any doctors, she's a wonderful advocate. Oh my God, I don't know where she got that passion and the knowledge from. I don't agree with certain views of her, even though we are in the opposite sides on different issues. I I told her that our both approach is based on science-based evidence and compassion. So we have a common platform now. So we will work together there. Let me forget our difference. So because not even in a time when even many doctors didn't know what does intersex means, the way she is putting through the argument, maybe you should read the judgment
Okay.
to Faizan Siddique, maybe Advocate Geeta Luthra's case. Maybe she can write to her office. She can also send the judgment. Because during that time, judgments were not uploaded online, I believe. Uh, Maybe even in this India Cocoon, that maybe in that it will be available again. Yeah, it's a long story. I'm so sorry. I'm just going on talking without
No, no,
allowing you
please.
to
No,
question.
no, my questions I have are being answered through whatever you're saying, and then I have some more. But please
Please
tell us.
ask me question. I feel so, like,
No, no, please.
yeah, yeah, doctor, yeah. How should I call you? Should I call you as Dr. Chavi or
Just Chavi. Chavi is fine.
Chavi? Okay, Dr. Chavi, yes, yes.
So, I mean, this is interesting, and probably see this is the reason why we need to know more. And when you were talking about, I wanted to ask you about what are the activities of Shri Madurai and how we can, how people can be associated with that organization. But before that, one other question came. So it has been a very tough journey because I think even in the workplaces, everywhere there was discrimination. It was like there was no voice only. So even
Yeah,
for us, when I think, and it's like one other community that we never really, there are so many we didn't bother, but this is like, so this case and other things. So tell us what are the activities of Shrishti and how can all the people here, how can we all join you or be associated with Shrishti and how we can contribute?
We are now forming India Intersex Forum,
Okay.
in which we are going to form a national level steering committee, a group of excellent genetic scientists and pediatric surgeons. And we lack psychologists and psychiatrists. Uh, you must join. I'm not inviting you. You must join
Oh,
with
yeah.
your team, of course, in it.
Yes.
And please, help us to, like, not in some savior complex, but in like, we're not a big group. We don't have big money and like, a big influence. Even we function in the three-tier city, not a sympathetic story it is, but then like what the way media is giving attention to the Mumbai community or Delhi community or Bangalore community or Chennai community or Kolkata community, you don't see that, in Madurai. To change the media narrative, to change the attention to Madurai, has struggled a lot. How many
Yeah.
national media reported the Madurai High Court judgment? They are busy in reporting, what a person from the community, what kind of dance they are making, what kind of if you're associated with celebrity, no offense, it is. I want to, say this because it's like many important things need to be said than the personal stories. I believe
Right.
personal stories are important, but just because a person belongs to the LGBT community doesn't mean that the person know the diverse community as whole. I'm
Right.
not speaking for the whole community. I'm speaking for myself. At the
Yes.
same time, I'm going with the science. I'm trying to help the policymakers, the larger community, but the public, as from the children to the diverse age groups, people of different profession who are connected to us, from the politicians to the lawmakers. The way we started engaging with the judicial academies and the MPs, Rajya Sabha MPs, to different group of people. We didn't had money. Sometimes Anjali used to book our flight tickets. I didn't have the place to stay. Anjali used to give me 2,000 rupees. Gopi, you please keep it. You spend it in your Delhi visit. You must have not had some big money or all that. When we organized Asia's first gender queer pride parade in Madurai, she said, "You don't need to book my flight ticket and all that. I will book it and I'll come by myself." And she walked with us on streets. She's half Tamilian. We take that proud, actually, that the pride, like, oh, like, we, I wrote a book, Marikapatapakandal. I dedicated a chapter on her activism, how selfless she is, because she plays a vital role in Srishti as an advisory board member, guiding our people. If I am getting depressed or something, I call her. She's the one who talks to me. Okay, fine, like, so. Okay, she's like 60 plus years old, single woman, not relationship halabulla stuff, running a running a not just she's living by what she's saying, actually,
Exactly.
because I lived with her. I know what she is. Why I'm saying this, in the sense, she is going to be the head, she's going to head the committee in the India Intersex Forum. We are going to launch the website. We will also send you an invitation for the launch. If you're available, please join in for the website launch for that.
I will.
So how you can contribute, in the sense, like, we have an orientation program. What are the conventions India have signed, especially from the disability to the mental health, through different issues related to the LGBTI people? By the way, we are the first organization, a student group, to raise the issue of LGBTI people with disability in the UN in 2009. So 2019, on September 2nd, the day Srishti was founded in 2012, the same day in 2019, um, Prashant Singh, a volunteer from Srishti, went to Geneva to present a joint report about what we lack in our system to accommodate LGBTI people with disability. diverse disabilities, not just physical disability, cognitive disabilities or mental health and different issues related to it. The report is available on the United Nations Human Rights High Commissioner's website. Also, we published a toolkit in that the information is also available. So we want a lot of people who will work with on narratives, especially the writing work. For example, if you are writing something in English, if it is getting translated in Hindi, because for me, I want to work in regional languages. In India, we don't have national language. We have
Yes.
2,000 plus languages. Of course, we maybe official script, maybe Devanagari. That is fine because of the cultural context. But at the same time, how much this NGOs published regional resources, when you go back before 10 years, even some of the movements which are criticizing me, none of these people, I mean, all these people studied in some big international schools and big, big colleges, simply criticizing me, useless people. I mean, like with a system and laptop, just because they have a laptop and internet connection, they talk whatever they know, not knowing the ground reality. They need to come to the ground and work with us. So people are welcome to do internship with us, and people are welcome to attend our orientation program to help us to analyze and find what talent we can use, because we need to structure a person's talent to assist us, right?
Right.
Because everybody have a talent, but talent need to be structured, I believe. So full and full, for this 10 years, without the support of a lot of volunteers, you're helping us to take our voice out. You're one of our volunteers. I mean, like, I'm a volunteer within the movement I created too.
Yeah.
Because in our Bharatiya tradition, we have the seva bhava, and more than that, it is like the sensitivity which my grandmother gave me, which comes from my grandmother. Whatever you're my child. She says, you know. So coming back to the issue of this, yeah, when you reach where people can reach us, they can write to. Please post our email IDs to office.srishtimadurai@gmail.com.
Yeah.
So um, they can reach to us, if somebody want to do a project, if they are a doctor, if they want to work on this issue, whatever doctor they may be a neurologist or a psychiatrist or whatever doctor they are, you know they are most welcome to kind of their talent will be useful for us, so they can reach us. Yeah.
You know, with this, you've spoken about how we can reach you. It just brings to mind. I did a the gap that we feel is recently I did a course from American Counseling Association on LGBT counseling. But
Yeah.
what we need from you is also we need from all of you is the whole that kind of training that we need, because we have a
Yeah.
Western perspective. But now
Yeah.
when you brought this thing up, you'll have to train us also on the indigenous perspective. And there have been a lot of comments coming in of this great initiative, because I have also been feeling that we are lacking the indigenous voice somewhere is not there when you look at all the other movements in the metro. And I'm a very metro based person, but this is one of the greatest initiatives, because the I mean, that is what we want. And we would look at, if you can, and people like you can just do maybe frame a training for all of us so that we understand, and there is no
Definitely.
other.
We both will do it with your institution and like with our collaboration or something. Sorry.
Yeah. And so,
One point I want to highlight is,
yeah,
why is it important in the sense like, according to UNHRC, Human Rights High Commissioner's Office, 1.6 to 8% people in the world are intersexed, which means vast than UP's population, which is equal to at least you know 40 small countries in the world, or at least 10 European countries in the world, which is vast population.
yes,
To operate one child, a pediatric surgeon this money they spend is like at least $2,000. 2,000 into at least 15,000 children are like born with this visible condition every year in India. Like 15,000 among 15,000 at least, like 15,000 into $2,000. You know how 15,000 into like 20, for example, per state we can have 300 people, 300 infants. 300 is less number. 300 intersex infants. In 2017 to 19, more than 300 children underwent intersex, those
Surgery.
so-called normalizing surgeries in Tamil Nadu. But there's a record from Tamil Nadu government hospital because Jayalalitha, under Jayalalitha's health insurance scheme, it is covered. That is the stupidity. We asked the government to remove it actually. uh, I think even in Delhi, I even asked, what is this scheme? Ayushman Bharat. The deputy
Aish.
director of at the time, who was it? Dr. Dinesh Arora AS. When he was there in Delhi, I asked him, are you going to sponsor the operation, the normalizing surgeries of intersex child? He said, no, 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 we are not going to do it like that. So that's fine. Now he is no more in Ayushman Bharat. He is in a sabbatical leave, I think. But the point is that um, there is a huge economy behind it. 15,000, like 300 to 5, like take 300 in the government, in private at least 300. To put it together, 600, 600 into 25 states. Some states are too small. So we will put as to 25 into 600 is big number. It comes around 15,000. 15,000 into $2,000 is nearing $1 billion. And a handful of pediatric surgeons without any medical protocol doing all this nonsense is like, I'm not blaming them. I'm not their enemy. Do it in a more scientific manner. It is not about just human rights, it's about the child's integrity. Do we have enough scientific evidence for whatever they are performing in the sense? No. And the larger LGBT community need to accommodate intersex people because an intersex people, for example, my sex characteristics may be an intersex person, but I identify myself as a genderqueer person, and I may have a different sexual orientation than you know um, an heterosexual person, right? Which
Right.
means intersex person can be a gay or lesbian or a queer person, what the term we use now. But don't confine just with these terminologies. Go beyond these terminologies. uh, think what we were before 200 years. Because
Yes.
mm, yeah, sorry, you were asking
No,
something.
sorry. No, no. I would want you to
Yeah,
elaborate on this. Uh,
yeah.
the different
So because
indigenous gender.
when you see um, when Alan Turing was compelled to commit suicide in 2000, sorry, not in, Alan Turing was compelled to commit suicide by the British colonialism. The same British colonialistic binary theological values is inspiring 377 and all that. It is not directly referring to homosexuality, but it is like any means of anal or oral sex it is mentioned. Which means including the judge who is reading the judgment to the cop who is arresting us or whatever it is. Everyone need to be inside the jail. But uh, you know uh, they were using later they were using this law not to target the heterosexuals, but especially the penetration, because according to the theological value, even the missionary position, what we known as the missionary position, it is the very kind of sexual morals propounded by the missionaries. Because any sex apart from producing, if you're not producing offspring through your sex, even masturbation is sin in the theology.
Yes.
And dharmic traditions don't have theology. We don't have a single book or single god. So Even the word religion have a lot of problem, because religion originates from religare. The etymological sense of religion comes from religare, which means to bind with. This term is widely popularized during the Crusades, because Pope want to bring all the small kingdoms together under him, and Crusades took place for 300 years, stupid 300 years, because Arabs were occupying Spain for at least 800 years, right? So, to bind all these kings under him, he Christianized the whole region to bring them together, to stabilize the economy, and to not make the geography to change something else. So that's otherwise our great Central Asia will be extending to Europe and throughout Africa now. But it is so I'm not going too much into it. But coming back to it, because my subject is religion, philosophy, and sociology, so I'm more interested in you know like you know because we also anyway, coming back to the issue, after Alan Turing's persecution,
Yeah.
we have this person called Dr. Michael Lawrence Dillon, who's the first modern or contemporary transman to undergo phalloplasty. He was assigned as female at birth. He had to flee from Britain, the Great Britain, to Bharat. At the time, Mao persecuted the whole Tibet was wiped off from the map. More than 13 crore people were killed. If you see more than 13 crore people were killed in this century because of communism. And if you see at the time, in 1930s to 40s, the population of India was not even 40 crores. Now we have 140 crores. We are successfully reaching 140 crores. We don't know when I am having, when I'm 80 years old, we will touch 200 crores, I believe. The point is that when we had less than 40 crores, identities were less. New castes or these identities originated post freedom. And Ambedkar is one of the important figure for the oppressed groups and everyone. But Baba Saheb Ambedkar is not the only person. Even before Dr. Ambedkar, we have Dr. M.C. Raja, who is senior to Ambedkar, who went to the round table conference, to represent the voice of SC and ST communities, because the term SC and ST originates from. He's from Tamil Nadu. And he proposed several progressive bills even before Ambedkar becoming law minister. In Tamil Nadu, he proposed several progressive bills. And none of these stupid, contemporary political parties in Tamil Nadu, especially DMK, all these people don't want to talk about MC Raja and all these people. But going back to the issue, it's to explain you the cultural scenario at the time and the population, to give you an idea. I mean, to go back to the issue of Michael Lawrence Dillon, he entered India during this, mess. Actually, India was in a mess. Like our founding fathers or mothers, all of them were creating India together. You know, uh, of course, the way back before that, the integrity of India goes back even before the Mayura time, from the top to bottom, from Kashmir to Kanyakumari or to Arunachal Pradesh to Mumbai. But coming back to the issue of Michael Lawrence Dillon, Michael Lawrence Dillon was so much fascinated by Tibetan refugees in India, went to Ladakh and explained them, I'm such and such. I was assigned as female at birth. I transitioned as male. And I underwent this procedure because Dr. Michael is a medical practitioner, medical doctor, by the way. And the protocols for phalloplasty also were designed by him. He contributed for the base, actually. So, Dr. Michael Lawrence Dillon was accepted as a Buddhist monk. He wanted to become a monk in India. And he's the first European to be ordained as a Tibetan Buddhist monk, also a trans. Also, a
Yeah.
first Tibetan Buddhist monk is also a trans. How many of the Indian LGBT community celebrate this fact? You know, yeah, going with a placard in streets are important, but how much we educated the community whom you're blaming is nil, zero. You know, if we want love from others, we cannot spread it through hatredness. We cannot spread awareness through hatredness by criticizing others. We need constructive activism, which will put, people, which we can, because we need to enter people. We need to know them, because we are talking about stereotypes, and we should not have stereotypes about people. How come we will, kind of abolish or abolish stereotypes with stereotypes with us? We say we will not bind with the concept of modern nationalism with the borders. For Europe and America and Australia, it is a horrible concept, nationalism, because there is nothing called nationalism for them. It's occupied land. Whereas for us, we are indigenous to this land. We are hyper mixed. We have every single race in the planet here in India. It's super mixed here. The point here is that how we are going to protect that integrity through the very kind of activism. Our constitution is inclusive, but our laws are not inclusive. And how much we are educated about our constitution, and especially when I say the laws are not inclusive, what constructive activism we are taking up to make that laws as inclusive, to educate the lawmakers, to educate the doctor. If a judge is having some issue, he will ask, okay, is this really a medical issue? Can you are a doctor? Please, can you tell me this? But what if the doctor doesn't know that? So the point is that um, before the LGBT community goes on to the public to talk about the diversity, they need to educate about the diversity within the community, because very often we forget the diversity within the diverse community.
Right.
um, you know uh, and only predominant privileged gay men or lesbian women or few community members associated with big organizations are voice of voicing for few issues. Writing opinions is everything for them. They don't know the ground reality. For example, you know uh, this transgender bill is horrible. It is mixing the sex identity and gender identity together, but how productively we can engage them matters a lot. And we need to look at the other important aspect here, Chaviji. Especially 90% of the hijras are begging and doing sex work because it is a kind of an internal system within them. They need to pay a tax. For example, one of the person whom we rescued from the forced sex work, a trans woman, when she wanted to become a trans woman, before 30 years, you don't have all the surgical procedures. You don't have this estrogen injection to, kind of have, and then like it is not easily available everywhere, right? So there is this medical advancement and all this medical procedures and cosmetic, procedures you go through. Uh, it needs to be ethical a bit, you know, and at the same time, for example, my friend, um, she when the person was he when she was a male, she went to Bengaluru to become a trans woman. She joined with the community there, and then like they asked her to. The group they live is known as Jamaat, the council, and they asked her to pay at least 3 lakh tax. So she went for begging, and after begging, with cross dressing, she did, and she gathered the 3 lakh and paid it to the Nayak. Nayaks are the chief collectors who collect the tax within the Hijra community. Every states have nayaks, at least 3 to 4 to 5 nayaks. And after collecting this tax and paying it to them, they allowed her to undergo, sex affirming surgery. and or gender affirming surgery is the right term. So when she underwent this surgery, um, for 1 year she cannot close her legs, and people from the Jamaat will be taking care of this person. But after the wounds got healed, they asked her, you should now go for brothel. She wanted to go to college, but then like who will pay her fee, and we don't know. So they forced her to do sex work. They domesticated her to rape. Six cis men who were assisting the Nayak raped her. She escaped from Bengaluru. None of the Bengaluru non-governmental organizations or none of the non-governmental organizations which is working in India is talking about this internal horrible gory system. Because this need to be prohibited. Because if doing sex work and begging is, I'm not going to that topic. But when you're forcing something on people, it is not okay, I believe, because the system has exploited the 90% of the community members, to depend on a different kind of a wage and economy. Because of that, we struggle a lot to bring them. For example, how many swapnas, trans gazetted officers we have?
Yeah.
How many of them can go to school first without discrimination? We need to educate. The education part is important. But we do have a lot of people who stood by their, and then like even me, I'm an example. I mean, like we all had all the struggles. We were not simply blaming. Like, okay, this problem is there. What is the solution? What can we give, and how we can do it? I mean, like how we can make our voice with value, and how we can make them to understand, how to more than the authority or something like we were looking for platforms and all that at the time. But anyway, the reason I was sharing the story is that it's a real story of a person called Kotravai. And for example, there is this person called Anusha. She escaped her Jamaat, the council. She went to Bombay, and then like the Bombay Nayak told that the one Nayak in the Bombay told that Nayak in Vishakhapatnam, this person called Anusha from your Jamaat in Vishakhapatnam is here, and you come and get her back. And they got her back, and she was burnt alive. It was reported in the New Indian Express, the case of Sorada Ellaji. The reason I'm sharing this with you in this sense, there are a lot of horrible things. The bill have both positive and negative aspects. When it comes to negative aspects, the government want to give us rights, but they don't know who we are. On the other hand, few people who are, especially including gay lesbian women and few trans women who have the privileges from the cities, whose parents are accepting them, they don't have any right to talk about, because they don't have the lived experience of these indigenous gender variants people who are forced into begging and sex work. That is wrong. That is wrong. The world is not all what they see or read in an opinion piece in an article. It is more than that. So, when we are advocating for diversity, equality is a enemy of diversity, because
That's
each
mm,
community comes with its exclusive nature. The exclusive nature protects the uniqueness of the community, or of the person. You are unique than I am. You cannot expect everyone, you cannot expect a monkey to swim and a whale to do a running race, and then like a horse to fly, and then it is stupidity, right? So uh, we need to create our safe space based on non-heteronormative science-based approach in a more constructive activism. Even if we are going to talk about intersectional issues like caste and various issues around it, we need to have a very constructive history, a concrete history, which is not going against the integrity of this land and our, which is not going against the integrity of their own community or their identity. So thank you so much. Like, if
Very
you
well
have any
strong.
questions, you can ask. I
There
mean,
are
like, I was just simply talking, talking, talking.
no, 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 no. There is you've given a very different perspective to the entire thing, and I believe that equity is more important than equality. And even for women's rights, when we talk about equity in many ways, but it's like so much of learning today, and there
Yeah.
are questions here.
One example I want to tell, how many
Yeah,
people within the community who are talking about Kashmir is comfortable in talking about Kashmir is not just only place of one particular community called Kashmiri Muslims, because I worked with Kashmiri Muslims more than anyone. I'm supporting the education of at least three Kashmiri young wonderful young guys, and especially one intersex child there. So I have been working with them, so I know the ground reality at least a bit. So the point here is that just by working with them, it doesn't mean that I'm not patronizing or acting as their voice. I acknowledge their trauma and all that. At the same time, as we talk about Kashmir, are we comfortable in talking about Tibet? Are we comfortable in talking about Tamil genocide? Why we are going with vested interests, you know, of certain countries? Talking, criticizing the government is different, but belittling our own traditions and country is something not okay. We can question the no, we can question and you know the non-heteronormative nature, which is like very superstitious things. But you know, because the reason I'm sharing this with you in the sense, especially the Delhi communities or all this, it's super elite. I mean, like they're living in wonderful city with all the facilities and like not knowing much ground reality, what is happening around India, and they believe Delhi is their India, like a well-fed frog, right? Because when the frog comes out of the well, the frog will discover the universe is so big, right? So we need, when we talk about, because we're talking about expanding ourselves, we are talking about something which is evolving, we are talking about fluidity. How come we can be so static? How come we can be so unlively by fixing ourselves to an idea? Talking against a religion, we become a devotee of some political ideology again, which is stupidity, I
yes.
believe.
I recently read your
uh,
article when you just spoke about it's out in the
yeah, yeah, yeah. So I wish my articles are translated in Hindi, or like my book is translated in Hindi. At least I'm writing a book and trying to write a book in English about the very important intersex athletes case we worked with. And
yeah.
yeah, so even after Shanti's victory, especially Shanti's judgment, because Caster Samania was very closely following that. She was very younger to Shanti, actually. 2 years younger to me, actually. She started following us on the Twitter, and then like she then and then she drops some message of like, I'm with you. Just give a shout out. Like we will create our space like that. I mean, a bunch of people who are trying to do something at the same time. We criticize the government. We also acknowledge what the government is also trying to, do for us. Um, yeah.
So it's been, you've discussed so many issues, and we are very grateful for that. There have been messages where everybody's saying very well said, and just agreeing with what you're saying. Indigenous wisdom and understanding is what is missing from the mainstream understanding, which I think is a very valid point, because I just discussed also,
Mm.
we really have no understanding of the indigenous. It's kind of,
Yeah.
and Mrinalini is saying great initiative, and
Mm.
even Krishna Balu Iyer is here. He said that the tragedy was that there was no doctor in the Indian contingent.
Yeah.
Uh, Many things. I mean, people know and people follow, and 10 years, and everybody is appreciating the fight you've taken this forward. And you've already told us how we can be associated with you, and There are many more things. And is there any compassion and understanding and so many things you've told us? What would be your last? I mean, I know we've exceeded the time,
Yeah.
so I know it's you have this, but thank you. You
Yeah.
know, but you, your message, any last message, and if you want to give one in one, what is the one message you would want to give all of us?
Analyze each and every word you're speaking, whether it is Hindi or English. Just for a moment, think where that word originates, why that word represents the object. Am I going with the object or the emotion of the object or the lived experience of the object? Because dog don't know that we are referring a dog as dogs, which means that because word is life and word gives life and word makes a language and word is politics, I believe. I analyze each word I'm speaking. Not even a single word which comes out of my mouth, it comes out in a very unconscious manner, maybe in some ignorant way, but then like I kind of rework on it again and again, because what we speak, that creates an identity, that creates a politics around. Be sure you speak a right word. There is nothing called right and wrong, but be sure that you speak a sensitive word, which is sensitive to all the ethos and ethics around you. Yeah, that's it. Yeah,
That's very, very, very deep. And Gopi, I thank you for sharing yourself.
yeah,
It's like, it becomes, it's a very, thank you because it makes this conversation, takes it
yeah,
to the realm of sacred. And,
yeah.
and even though you didn't speak so much about your,
Personal
it is
life.
there.
Yeah,
Yeah, there
I
is,
will. I will because I'm writing a book on it, and as well as I'm waiting for some time, because there are a few people who may not okay with immediately talking about it, because they have gotten because they may be family members or partners or like you get it right. So there are few issues around that.
but whatever you've shared, we
Yeah,
thank you so much for it. And I hope we are conversationists, and personally also, I hope we can be associated with you, and we will, and
definitely.
yeah, and we look forward to your guidance because there are many things that we all do not know about the indigenous community. We're going to be asking you, even though we know we are
Yeah.
more aware than when we started this. When we started this, I was at a, I mean, the own awareness, and from the head, this whole movement, this whole conversation has moved to the heart, and
Mm,
it's
mm.
difficult now, and that's what. So thank you so much for sharing this, and thank you for being here. You've been so busy. Recently, you were in Spain. I mean, not
Yeah,
figuratively.
I was about to, but then because this virus stopped us.
No, no. Yeah, you would have
But
been in Spain. And
yeah,
so there is Mrinalini said, thank you, Gopi Shankar, for this and so much learning. We need to know so much more. And I hope at least through this, many more people will get in touch with you. We will put out your
definitely.
email ID also there,
Yeah,
Shristi,
definitely. Definitely. Yeah,
and we look forward. And thank you. And
definitely.
I
And
hope the association, this is the beginning of a more longer
absolutely,
and fruitful
absolutely.
association.
Because I also don't know much about many things. I'm also looking forward to learning from you. It's like hand on hand learning. It's like not one way learning. So thank you so much for having me and namaste and jai. Ma. Namaste.
Namaste. Namaste. Thank you
Uh,
so much.
namaste.